We are, and the handouts will be here momentarily.
Oh, you're so smart.
No, they are, Carol.
Okay.
Just go tell them what I need.
Okay, so visual perceptual hierarchy. Is anybody familiar with this?
When did you last see that?
When we were in your class.
Thank you. And that was in their first year.
Yeah, we found it. I brought my book actually. Because we had someone visit.
And it's in your book now?
It is also in that book.
Your main textbook?
Yes.
Their pediatric textbook,
Yeah.
right? What is it? Is it still chapter 12? And can you flip through it, Kelly, and I'll get it, or just set it near me and I'll show her here in a second.
Oh, that's all right. I
Yeah.
believe you.
I just want you to see how
I'm just so
fantastic.
glad
Yeah.
because it certainly wasn't in my textbook.
Right.
I think she came out with this in about 1990. I think that's when it hit APE. Okay. So we're going to go fast, okay? Because you guys already have seen this once, right? Has everybody seen this at least once? Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Okay.
We're 17.
Mary Warren is kind of brilliant, I think. And she's from Kansas. I was born in Kansas. She's like so laid back and unassuming. She's, pardon?
Those Midwestern people are so solid.
They are. They're so fun. I like them. Okay. You're not flashy, gentlemen. So, visual perceptual hierarchy, visual perception function can be conceptualized as being organized into a hierarchy of processes that interact and subserve each other to provide integration of visual information. There's her little pyramid. You guys take a look at that, review that in your head instead of me just reading it to you. Tell me what to go on.
Is there anything on there that you guys would say, I don't know what that is? I mean, we have an open discussion here, so feel free. I mean,
Yeah.
does that make everything you see there, you could pretty much recognize as how you, or seen an OT maybe evaluate that or look at that? Okay.
Okay.
Visual cognition is a little fuzzy.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to go through those one at a time. There you go.
Ask a question and it'll be answered.
Okay, so visual cognition, you're applying cognitive concepts of space and form, developed through vision, for decision-making and problem-solving. Size constancy is an example, and Irma, as a pediatric therapist, would be able to speak to this much better than me, because that's one of the stages that kids go through, is learning size constancy, that even if they have their cup that they're supposed to be drinking out of, and they throw it on the floor, even though it looks smaller, it's still the same size, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And when kids start to write, you know, it's like, what do they look like? What does their handwriting look like when they first begin to write? Pretty huge and inconsistent, and then later on it gets refined a bit, and then they know the difference between a capital S and a small s, and then when to use it, right? And one of the signs is if they don't even know where to begin on how to write a letter, then we've got to go get away from handwriting and go back to more practice things, which we'll talk about, which have everything to do with vision.
Right, right, okay, okay. So academics, visual cognition gives you the ability to read, to do mathematics, foundation for many vocations, surgery, architects, engineers. Anybody think of any others? I don't know, landscape architects, artists, visual
Where
artists.
you have to understand what you see.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, really, I'm just thinking like somebody who works in house cleaning or housekeeping, I mean, they have to understand what they see. They're working with spatial stuff all the time. You cannot alter vision without altering cognition. Okay, really, really important. You can't alter vision without altering cognition. Okay. Visual memory, you have to have visual memories so that you can alter and play with them in your head, okay? and visual memory supports visual cognition. Okay. So here's her example. Have you guys seen this? No? Okay, cool. This is a cool thing. Okay, can you see the silhouette of the hawk? Can you see the goose?
See the, oh, I see it, yeah.
Okay, everybody see both? Okay. Does anybody not see both? All right, okay. To see either requires the recall of the silhouette of both birds from your visual memory. Okay? So good, it's working. Okay. Pattern recognition. So the hawk and the goose, those are patterns. You have to have an accurate visual input so that you can form, so that you can see the pattern, so that you can remember it for visual memory, so then you can remember it. Okay. So pattern recognition requires identification of the salient features of objects, and so that's the most important feature that distinguishes one object from another. Okay, so this example, the only thing that is different between a capital E and a capital F is that bottom horizontal bar. So you have to be able to recognize that as the salient characteristic of those letters. Okay. There's two abilities for pattern recognition. You have to see the big thing, the gestalt, see the forest, and then also see the details to see the trees. Okay. So here's an example. Oh, cool! This is so cool. So if you look at it, you know, with the big picture, you're going to see a tree in winter with an orange-red bird in it. Does anybody see anything else?
I just saw the other just now.
Oh, Pam, I didn't see the pencil and paper. Oh, I didn't see those with pencil and paper. Yeah, I just thought it was a bird pecking the ground.
So there's two birds. I was waiting for you.
What'd you say? That the only one that didn't see it?
Oh no.
No, we caught it at different times, Brittany.
Yeah, different times.
Yeah.
No, you're not the only one that didn't see it. No, I remember when I first looked at this, I looked at it for a long time. I was like, what does she mean? The tree. Oh! No, it takes a while. It takes a while to get. But isn't that cool? I love this. So you have to be able to see the details. So think about somebody who has maybe a left field cut. You know, they're not going to see his part. So not going to be the same. Okay, visual search and scanning. And in order to recognize a pattern, so that you get visual memory, so you get visual cognition, so that adaptation to vision, you have to do a thorough search and scan. Okay? And this occurs on two levels. There's the automatic reflexive, and that goes through the brainstem for purposes of survival. And people will automatically turn their head towards a light object or movement. Okay, so that's like a really old part of the visual system of moving your head when you see something at the side. And then there's voluntary purposeful, which is through the cortex. So it's a newer skill, you know, in the whole history of like development as a species or whatever, driven by cognition, and you're purposely scanning a scene or a visual array so that you can locate and identify a target. Okay. So, and then for visual attention, there's two kinds of visual attention. There's global awareness of objects in the environment so that you can navigate, and then focal attention so that the target can be identified. So her example is locating a friend in a crowd and then walking towards them. So you have to use your global attention so that you don't walk into anybody in the crowd and use your focal attention to keep your eyeballs on your friends so that you keep moving towards them. Okay?
Anybody ever tried to find their significant person at the Peachtree Road Race?
Oh my God.
I mean, you know, I'm headed towards the sea balloon, but I'm walking around other people, and I'm about to pass out, and I'm looking for my husband, but I know, I can remember what he wore, and when I finally see him, it's like, bing, he just comes and wears Walter. Yeah. Yeah.
Did everybody find where we are in the handout?
Page 11. Top of page 11.
Thank you. That is hilarious. Okay, so visual search and scanning, you do this in an organized, efficient, and predictable pattern. And in our society, most people do left to right, top row, next row, which is like how we, yes, good OTs. Okay. And really in other cultures, people like Chinese culture, where they read in a different manner, people do their search in a different way. So it's, kind of trained. So Mary Warren says that if you've got a structured array, which is things in lines, okay, like looking for your friend that's sitting on bleachers at a game, you're going to use this scanning pattern, left to right, kind of top to bottom. And actually what I notice myself do is, first of all, I'll look and I'll just go all over the place and I'm like, I can't find them. And then I start getting more systematic, okay? If you're looking at a landscape, you might use a circular pattern. So if this is my landscape, I might go like that in a spiral, okay?
So Tracy, that's what I do in my word searches, because sometimes I'll go, I love word searches, and I'll look at the whole thing, it's going to pop out, and then I can't find that last word, so then I finally go, look for all
you
the...
get more systematic,
yeah.
and more structure.
Yeah.
I go to circle.
That last word that I can't find is going the wrong way, diagonally and backwards, and I have to look for the beginning letter.
Right.
So I'm scanning.
Right, you're scanning. And in my building, on the second floor, we used to have the vending machine room, and I loved it because I would take my patients up and we would practice scanning in the vending machines because they're structured, they're in lines. And I would ask people, okay, how many different kinds of packages of cookies are there? So they would have to do the compensatory pattern that I taught them, and they would also have to count out the packages of cookies. If they didn't look over to the left because they had left inattention, then I'd be like, you missed those over here. And it's not a big deal that you missed those cookies over there on the left, but you need to learn this so that you don't miss stuff on the left when it's really important. Okay. So visual attention, you have to be paying visual attention in order to search and scan, okay? And visual attention is a critical component for complex visual processing. If you don't pay attention to the target, then you just don't get it. It doesn't go into visual memory, so on and so forth. And again, this has a global attention and a focal kind of component. So globally, you have an awareness that there's a chair in the room, and then you need focal attention to look at that chair and figure out what kind of chair it is, what the details are, If it's a high-back Victorian carved or something like that. Okay. Visual attention takes all of your brain. Okay. All of your brain. Brain stems, cerebral cortex, cerebellum, gotta pay attention. So, I haven't done inpatients for ages, except for during the weekends occasionally, but I remember when we would have people that had head injuries, that was one of the things that we would work on is their visual attention. So we would have their family bring in pictures of their loved ones and hold those up and move it in front of their face and try to get them to pay attention. And then at one of Mary Warren's conferences, I found out that, that our brains are hardwired to look at faces. And so, and I figured, well, you know, looking at a picture is really kind of complex, especially when you're coming out of a coma. So then I would just get my face up there and I'd move my face back and forth to try to get people to pay attention to an object and to start to do some tracking, okay? Okay, so foundation functions. The three visual functions that form the foundation for her hierarchy are critical. If you don't have those going on, if you don't have those working, then you can't do any of the other things, okay? Or you can't do them very well. When I was in school, we didn't look at ocular motor control, visual acuity, or visual field. I mean, nope, we did not look at it. You didn't look at it either.
No, we heard about, you know, hemianopsia, and I was like, okay. You know,
Yeah, whatever, yeah. But we would do things like the MVPT, are you guys familiar with that? Right, the motor free visual perception. Right, we were taught to do that, and Mary Warren's like, no, we were missing the boat. Because people had problems in these foundation these foundation areas and all that other stuff they couldn't do because of the problems here. And here we are testing something that people couldn't do, but we're really not testing the problem. Okay, so ocular motor provides perceptual stability. Have you ever seen anybody who's gotten nystagmus? Where their eyes are kind of beating and they can't control it? So they don't have perceptual stability, okay? Especially if it's a new onset, okay? Because the image is moving as their eyeballs move. But on the other hand, if people have the nystagmus for years and years, and especially as a kid, the brain starts to adapt and people end up doing better. But that's an example of perceptual stability.
And Tracy, or have you seen a kid that can't fixate? Or an adult that can't fixate? I mean, it might be, they've got ADHD or something, but just, it's like you're wondering, why aren't they looking at this? Or why aren't they paying attention to that? But again, if you don't have that perceptual stability, whether it's nystagmus or the inability to just look at the pen, you know, that causes occupational performance problem.
Quick question that's along the same vein. I have a friend who has a daughter that has been kind of diagnosed, I guess, with, is it Ireland? It's a perceptual issue as well that deals with like the reading where everything kind of jumps around, and she's actually wearing different colored glasses that help her focus. I don't know if that's sort of a
I think that's
out there sort of, or if it's a contrast thing. Like, I don't know if that's something that OTs typically see, like, because I had never heard of it, whereas I've heard of a lot of this before and been able to look at it. And I don't know, but it sounds like sort of that perceptual can't keep its eyes on the page, almost like a lot of nausea from reading because everything's flipping and moving and that sort of thing.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
We'll look into it. But I have heard of Irwin, and it sounds like they're doing compensatory things with for helping with the contrast or help her focus.
And each child kind of like the color of her lenses are different than some kids. It kind of depends on where she is. It's been very effective.
Oh, good.
With the exception of they have trouble with the teachers allowing her because they think she's wearing a different, like a funny colored sunglasses. So they won't let her wear the glasses in classes.
Oh, that's really helpful.
So they've had to like move her around to find or convince a teacher to actually let her wear the glasses in class, because I think hers are like a pinky rose kind of color, and so it looks like she's wearing something decorative as opposed to something for reading, which is just silly.
Oh, that's goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so without these visual functions, no image would be generated within the brain. Okay, all the levels must work together like parts of a car. If you have impairment at one level, it affects the functioning of all the others. Okay, especially if one of those lower functions has been impaired. Okay, here's her example. You have a client with left hemanopsia, blind in the left half of each eye. The brain doesn't register objects on the left side because the brain doesn't see the objects, register them. Visual attention isn't engaged towards the left side. There's no pattern recognition on the left side of the world. There's no visual memory because there's not any visual attention, no scanning. And so the client is kind of wandering around. They have difficulty getting from one place to another place. Okay. Changes in visual perception following brain injury. 4 changes of visual function areas, visual field, visual acuity and focusing, oculomotor control, visual attention. So in each of the 4 areas, you can have a continuum of problems from mild to severe. And the person's ability to adapt depends upon the severity of the impairment and the person's other strengths and weaknesses. And really, I mean, sometimes you see people that have terrific impairment, visual impairment, and they do pretty well because they've got other skills. Like that fellow I was telling you about who has only 25% of, this size clothes, only half of the vision in his right eye, little bit of cognitive problems, but just sweet guy. So he's got really, he's got a good heart. That's one of his strengths. He's kind of trusting. He's got a supportive family, and he's got good social skills that are still there. So he does pretty well. You can have somebody else who doesn't have as great of a visual, you can have somebody else who doesn't have as great of a visual impairment as he does, but they've been kind of anxious all their life, kind of distrustful, don't have a lot of social network, and so they might do really poorly, even though they've got like maybe a little bit of mild macular degeneration, and they just don't cope. So it really, people are so different, it's just amazing. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the functional areas of the eyebrows, of the eyeballs and brain, central vision and peripheral vision. And you know what? To be honest, I think this is more helpful to me in day-to-day rehab than the hierarchy is.
Yep.
So this is where I live. Okay, so and does this sound familiar? You guys looked at central and peripheral vision?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Okay, so just a little review. So here's your macula. It's a little teeny tiny. Here's your blind spot from where your optic nerve, all that bundle of nerve fibers from the retina goes back in the brain. Paracentral vision. So everything else is your peripheral vision. Okay. So your central vision, teeny tiny, 6 millimeters. Everything else, your periphery, 42 millimeters. Okay. Your central vision gives you the ability to see detail, which is just another way of saying acuity. We are very conscious of our central vision, very, very conscious. If people have uncorrected or uncorrectable central vision problems, it drives them friggin' nuts. They're the ones who go to the doctors and complain because we're very conscious of our acuity, and if we can't see them, we're not happy campers. Okay, so functionally we use it to read, to do cooking, food package directions, set the microwave, the oven knob, financial management, medication management, read signs, all that kind of stuff. If you have damage in your retina or the optic nerve and you lose some of your vision in your central vision, that's called the scotoma. Or, as I tell patients, you've got a hole in your vision. Okay? Peripheral vision over there. Peripheral vision is largely unconscious. It's what we use to monitor the environment with and to walk around with. Okay? To walk around with. So if the peripheral vision starts to go, people usually aren't aware of it. You can have, like your grandmother with glaucoma, she has peripheral loss, and with glaucoma, the loss starts on the outside of the peripheral vision, and then and it's a progressive disease, and if untreated, it even faster comes in and in and in. And I think it can end up in total blindness. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so people are left with just central vision.
My grandmother was diagnosed with macular degeneration probably 5-6 years ago maybe, and she's I'm just now noticing, she's not able to drive probably in like the last, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 years, and maybe longer. And I've just now started noticing that when she looks at things, she'll go like this so that she can see out of the corner of her eye. She's just now started that, so it's kind of sad that she's losing everything in the middle, so she'll just kind of, she'll just tilt her head just a little bit.
And that's good.
She's figured out how to do it.
Yeah, that's called a PRL. It's a preferred retinal locus in the brain and the eyes. When we lose central vision, we automatically, naturally develop another little spot of vision. You know, when we look at something, we point our central, like I'm looking at those books, I'm pointing my central vision right at those books. But if my central vision is gone, then I might develop a little spot over here, so I would turn my eyes slightly to the left, and I put that book title that I'm looking at right on the retina, on the PRL. So she's doing that naturally.
Yeah.
And then what I do as a low vision OT is I help people understand that they're doing that. Because usually people say, oh, you know, sometimes I'll look at the TV and it's nice and clear and I can see it. Or I'll look at my phone and you know, I can see the keys and then they'll just kind of slip away. Well, that's because, you know, we're hardwired to point our central vision at whatever it is we want to look at. And if you're older, holy cow, you've been doing that for what, 70 years, 8 decades. And so, you know, what people, they have to learn that they've got that PRL and to start using it and get control over it.
And she'll, if
So
she's
she'd be
on
a
her
good
phone,
location
she'll
candidate.
hold it up like right here, and my dad's like, no, move it up here. I'm like, no, she can see it when it's right here.
Yes.
But just yesterday, I took her like a slaw dog or something, I don't know. She was eating like this hot dog, and she had just put like mustard on it, and I guess like she had got just this little bitty piece of like her mustard wrapper, and how the heck she saw that, we still don't know. We were sitting there, and she just went and picked out this little bitty piece, and I looked at each other, and we were like, she sees that.
It fell into her PRL.
Yeah.
She just,
Yeah.
it was just,
It fell into
like,
her
no
PRL.
problem. I was like, you don't see anything, but she saw that little bitty piece.
It's important.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah,
you know,
but
this is what happens with the visual impairment. Visual impairment is invisible, and families and loved ones cannot see what their loved one sees, and they don't. And if you understand how the vision system works and how the eyeball works, then these apparent inconsistencies in seeing and behavior make sense. But if you don't understand, then you're like,
Yeah, we're
I
like,
mean,
she sees that. You know,
yeah, right,
watch the figure.
right. But if you want her to sign a check,
She can't see
she can't see it.
My mom gets frustrated with my grandmother sometimes because she's the same way. She'll say, I can't go outside because I can't see the step down off the curb, or she'll say everything looks really cloudy to her, really foggy in the rain. She has some macular as well. And but she can read every little side effect on her medication that she gets, and she's gonna have all of them plus one. And it irritates my mom.
Okay.
She's like, how can she see that and not see to walk?
Okay. So peripheral vision you use to be mobile. It's unconscious, but you are aware of what's around you. So all of you right now, I want you to take one thing and fixate on it. Okay? Take one thing and fix on it. And now keep your eyes open and try to become aware of your peripheral vision. Okay. So can you kind of almost feel the people next to you or the chair or something? But you know, usually we're tuned into our central vision. Okay? We're tuned into our central vision. So your grandmother, when she says she can't walk because she can't see the curb, the lady's telling the truth. She's telling the truth. You know, she really can't see it.
Because I think most of hers is almost like here below. I think is
Well,
where she's most
probably,
aware.
it's probably all around, but
She's
you know, the more
aware.
critical part is down here. Yeah, so she can't see it. She really can't see it. That's scary. But even though she's got a little bit of macular degeneration, which is in the central vision, she's got central vision. So she can read all those side effects.
Yeah.
We stopped letting my grandmother drive when we were driving down the road one day and we passed by a big white retaining wall and she looked out the window. She said, "Sure is foggy outside." And we were like, "Okay, Grandma,
Yeah.
we're gonna drive you wherever you need to go."
Well, my
So-
grandmother, well, she really stopped driving when we asked her to, and because of her peripheral loss, she can't see red lights because they're up so high
Right.
in the car, and she ran a red light and got hit.
Right.
So yeah, that was when she realized she couldn't drive anymore.
So you guys, what's more critical for driving, peripheral vision or central vision?
Critical.
Think
What's
about
critical? What's
Peripheral.
critical? Peripheral, because that's what helps you be mobile. That's what helps you be mobile. The state of Georgia, they have a cutoff for both peripheral vision. It's 140 degrees with both eyes horizontally, but their other is acuity. It's at 2060, like worse than 2060.
Correct.
But a lot of driving experts say, really the acuity's not that big of a deal. It's more the periphery.
My grandmother went and they said, "Oh yeah, you can drive because of her acuity." They said she could drive, and we were like,
And they didn't even test her peripheral vision.
Whereas my grandmother memorized the person in front of her when they spat out the lines. She just memorized it and told them that.
Yeah, people don't want to lose their independence. They don't.
I wonder if I got a 10-year license.
Tracy, what was it you called it a minute ago about when you talked about they'd make another film?
retinal locus, you called it.
Yeah.
Peripheral retinal locus. I like that word.
Preferred.
Is it preferred or peripheral?
Preferred. Preferred retinal locus.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's like so cool. It's so much fun to help people work with that. Okay, so how you all can apply the visual hierarchy and do some basic testing. Okay, so you're not a doctor, right? We know that. Okay, if you want to be a doctor, you wouldn't be here. But you do need to test so that you can understand how your patient's seeing, because it's invisible and you really don't know how they're seeing except what they can tell you. But you really need to understand how their seeing affects their occupational performance. So it's appropriate for you to do some testing. And I remember when I first started doing some of these tests that the optometrist had done and stuff, I was like, ooh, I just don't feel right doing this doctor stuff. But it's really important. So one thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through some real basic tests. And the first thing we're going to do is figure out what your dominant eye is. So everybody take, do you already know? Everybody take a piece of paper, roll it up.
Can I borrow one piece?
This is what I do with my patients. So then I hand them the tube and I say, pretend like you're a pilot and look at me.
Oh, well, my
Right.
tube's
Right. Lefty, right.
open.
Just look. Look at me. Look at me through the tube. Okay, so you're left.
I think it's whatever your first instinct is.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I have to wing. I can't wing with this
You
eye.
can't? Okay. That's probably your
I
dominant
think
eye.
that's my dominant. I think I was just like, well, I'll do this
You're
one
probably
first, and then I'll do the other.
Yeah.
You can do that with your feet too if you can.
Yeah.
Take one step toward me.
And you guys know not to be handing something to the right or to the left, right?
Sit on the table.
Well, in the middle,
Yes.
don't.
I've seen that test, but I've had somebody, like when somebody asked me to do it, they had me do it this way, and then whichever eye I was looking at them with was my dominant eye, so I couldn't
Okay.
tell which one I was looking with. And so they had me, and he didn't tell me what he was doing, he had me do it multiple times, and I switched every time.
Oh, so you don't have good dominance.
Apparently not.
And maybe,
So which eye do you see? And so if I were to look
but
at
that
my
could be
right,
your,
I don't know.
What do you think?
I cannot even see. I feel like curious though.
Yeah.
I feel like I was looking more like
I
this.
know, see, that's why now you're looking at that.
okay. So what I tell my patients is that everyone has a dominant eye, just about everybody has a dominant eye, just like we have a dominant hand. And, and if they're right-handed, I say, if you couldn't use your right hand, you would have a lot of difficulties, but if you couldn't use your left hand, you would get along pretty fine. It would be okay, as long as you have your dominant hand still functioning. I said it's the same thing with your eyes. If you lose the vision in your dominant eye, it makes life more difficult for you. It's harder to do the things that you need to do. Okay?
Can they switch? Because like I'm right-handed, so I would think I'm mostly right dominant, but then the vision in my right eye is worse, and so I always go. I naturally go to my left. Do you think that's why my right eye might be worse?
I
or is
think
that why because my dominant is
more
worse?
people are right-handed, more people are right-eyed, and yes, if the dominant whatever isn't working, then people do switch over to the side that's more functional. Yeah.
And like being ambidextrous would probably would that like correlate
Like
to your
affect
vision
your
at all?
vision?
Not really.
No, Mary Warren says there's not really any
Okay.
relation between handedness and eyedness. Okay, so that's important to know, so just think about that, you've got a dominant eye. Okay, so acuity, has anybody ever done acuity testing with anybody?
Yes.
Okay, good, and then you all have had that done. Okay, so you need to use the appropriate glasses, and there's two kinds of acuity tests. There's distant and there's near, okay? And you guys know that when somebody gets to be in their 40s, their 50s, the lens of the eyeball is not flexible anymore because of age, exposure to light. It stiffens up, and that's why when we get to be middle-aged, it's really hard to focus there, and why we wear reading glasses, right? Right, yes.
What would you say about someone who is young and needed to wear reading glasses? Because you think
It must have been
their
an
lens would
OT
still be flexible.
Their lens would still be flexible, but there's also a condition called hyperopia, which is farsightedness.
I started out with reading glasses and then I ended up with contacts and my vision changed to nearsightedness. It was like I started out with farsightedness and then as I got older we started to see that one eye became more nearsighted and the other eye started to become more nearsighted.
Okay.
Adjusted that way.
So, and this is why I say, well, vision is a specialty, refer to somebody's vision, because this is really complicated. And farsightedness and nearsightedness is just like the basic.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got your eyeball, and then you've got your lens, and the light rays come through, and the lens focuses the light rays and makes them smaller and flips the image upside down, right? So if your eyeball is too wide, then the image falls in front of the retina, and that's nearsightedness, and so they correct your vision with glasses so that you can see far away. If the eyeball is too short, then the image falls behind the retina. I mean, it would fall behind the retina. And then you have farsightedness, so you have glasses to correct your vision, so that, and both the glasses are to make the retina fall where it should. So you can have someone who's young, who is farsighted because their eyeball is, and I think I've got that right. I might have it confused up, but I think it's right. Oh, thank you. So you can have somebody who's young, who is farsighted, and they need to use their glasses to read. Okay, but then you get middle-aged, and it's a different part of your eyeball that's screwing up.
It's a lens.
And it's your lens now, and so now you've got to wear reading glasses.
Can accommodate.
So it's complicated.
Right, and it's very, very complicated because
It's
as
very
a
complicated.
new student, when I started college, I had was it astigmatism? I
Yeah,
mean,
which is
as the
the
more
shape
I
of your
read,
eyeball.
the more things got blurred because I was working harder. So therefore,
Yeah.
you need glasses.
And your eye was getting tired.
Yeah. But that's
And
fatigue.
as we grow, when we're growing up, our bodies are changing like mad, and so and eyeball shape is changing too.
So my brother's was the same way. He started out farsighted, then he got nearsighted, and now he doesn't wear glasses at all. He's 20/20.
So kind of even down, like he lucked out.
But just remember, the take-home is where that image falls. You're going to look at an image, and depending on where that image falls on your eye, she's saying, is what the correction has to
Right.
focus on again to use it.
Right, and so the other take home with this is that when you're going to do an acuity test, you have to make sure that you've got the appropriate glasses on. So if you've got a little old lady who says, I only wear glasses when I read, and you're going to do distance acuity test, you don't have her use her reading glasses, right? Okay, so if you have somebody who has glasses and they've got a bifocal line down here,
I am bifocals, but they're transitional.
they're invisible, okay. Do you have any, you have correction?
Mhm.
You're nearsighted?
Oh.
Farsighted?
Mhm.
Okay. So you've got, I'm gonna use you, okay? So she's got correction in the upper part of her glasses, which is the distance portion of her glasses, and then correction down in the bottom so that she can read, because her lenses are like my lenses, and they're not near-infrared, okay? So you need to get the appropriate glasses, not their reading glasses to do distance. 20/20 is considered normal vision. That's at 20 feet away, and it's like 20 points, which is some printer's designation. Apparently printers from like way back when, when they first made the print, whatever, Gutenberg's Bible and all. They had, their size of type was called out by different points or degrees or something. So we still use that in these Snellen charts. So if you have 20, 35, that means at 20 feet that you can see 35 degrees of the letter, so the letter's bigger. Okay, that's really the best thing. Low vision is 20/70 and worse with best corrected vision. Best corrected vision. Okay. Okay. So you have to have on your best corrected vision. 2200 is legally blind, and again, if somebody says, oh, if I take off my glasses, I'm legally blind, you can say, you don't understand the definition of legally blind, because legally blind is 2200 or worse with your best correction, okay, best correction. And like I said before, you get SSI and all this kind of stuff. Yes, ma'am?
How does it change, like with contacts? I know when I wore contacts, they were like -8 point something. So how does that?
Those are how doctors and opticians talk to each other, and it's in diopters, which I think is degrees of curve, and pluses are magnification, and minuses are minification.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole bunch of stuff about lenses. It's like, and that's like the basic
It's
normal
like your
stuff.
glasses, if it's
Yeah.
nearsighted or farsighted. The plus
Yeah.
would be like the bifocal part, and your minus would be like your the farsighted part of your glasses. Because mine are like the negative, and I can't see far away. And then if you have the plus vision, it's very up close. And my mom has monovision. She wears contacts, but she has one that's a negative that lets her see far away, and one that's a positive that lets her see up
Yep.
close.
Yep.
Yeah.
My friend's mom has that, and so says I should be like.
Takes a while
Did
to
that
get
answer your
I'm
question?
used to it.
I was just curious how come it's like 20/40 or something like that, and then you compare it to like a contact. I'll find out. I'll go.
It's
And
the
it's
lens.
Yeah, it's a lens. And, a lens is a lens is a lens. So I think they still use the same kind of notation and the same curve,
I'll figure it
degree
out.
of curve.
I
Yeah, check it out.
That's a good question for Dr. Berger, too.
Yeah.
That's an excellent question for Dr. Berger.
Because she's the expert in that stuff.
Yeah.
2040, it might be just like -0.25. Now mine's like 2200, and mine are like -7.
Okay.
So it kind of correlates to that in
Yeah, I
some
was
way.
just curious. That's fine.
And then spherical is the correction for astigmatism, and, they've got their whole language. So one thing I want you guys to remember is that even if somebody is 200 or 20/200 and they're legally blind, they can have a whole bunch of functional residual vision. One of the things that they really impressed on us at UAB was that a lot of times, you know, doctors will say, well, you're legally blind now. And that hearing that is devastating for patients. And they think, oh my God, I can't see anymore. Because they've already been losing their vision. And it's an authority figure. You know, it's a doctor, probably a guy in a white coat who's saying that. And people just think that they can't see anymore. And sometimes they stop trying. You know, they just like get into that passive thing. But really, if you're just 2200, you've got a lot of residual vision that can be used functionally, okay? So I think sometimes as a doing low vision OT, you know, a lot of my job is to kind of give people hope and encourage them that, yeah, you've got vision loss, but that doesn't mean you can't do anything. Okay, so to do this acuity test, we need to have a vision chart. And who wants to have their acuity tested? All right, come on up here. You've never had your eyes checked?
What?
Well, probably when she was younger, but
I know.
when she was like through school.
Yeah, but Tracy is regular physical as soon as you get your driver's license.
You never had your eyes checked?
I get mine checked every 6 months.
You might not have to go to an optometrist, but your eyes.
Right, but like at there, you like look at the thing.
I know.
Usually you look at the thing.
That's how my father figured out he had vision issues. He told me she missed
So I always tell my patients that if they haven't had their vision checked, that they should go get their vision checked because there's a lot of eye diseases that that don't hurt, you don't notice them, glaucoma's one, and you just want to make sure that everything's okay. I mean, you're so young, probably everything's okay. So, which was your dominant eye?
My left.
Your left. Okay, so we're going to test your left eye first. So put that over your right eye. And this chart, I eyeballed. I'm about 10 feet away from her. This is a 10-foot equivalent of the 20-foot. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And so, and I would hold it pretty much right across from her eyes. And we're testing dominant eye first. And if she wore glasses for distance, I would have her glasses on there. We'd have her glasses on there, okay? So just, where's the smallest line of print that you can read? Sorry, I'm not going to be able to hold this perfectly still. Okay, the bottom one?
No.
This one?
No. I know it starts with P, but I can't see the rest.
It starts with P? Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I can't see the rest of it.
Move your eye. Move your eye in your head and read this line to me.
I really can't. I
Okay, well then let's go up to the next line. So, can you read that one? Go ahead.
H, K, G, B, C, A, N, O, M, P, P, E, S.
Okay, so that's 20/25. So your right eye is 20/25 for visual acuity. Left eye, or left eye, I'm sorry. I always get this. So switch eyes. Probably doesn't help putting it over mascara, does it? Okay, and then which line?
I can see the bottom.
Are you leaning back in your chair?
I mean, am I supposed
Yeah,
to be
just,
like?
no, not like that, but just
Straight up,
straight
yeah.
Because you're actually starting to go like that.
Am I?
Yeah.
I can still see the bottom.
Okay, go ahead, read it out loud to us.
D, A, N, T, W, U, L, J, S, F, X, B, M, R, A, H, C, F, O, Y, Z, G.
Yeah, and actually, I think that one's a P, not an F. But this is 2016, so your acuity in your right eye is better than normal. And then we're not going to take the time to do it, but then I would have somebody do both eyes. Okay, we're not going to do that right now because but yeah, thank you. So, you know, you were saying that when you were trying to figure out which eye was dominant, it wasn't
Yeah, like, I knew
immediately apparent.
I know I can see better in my right eye,
Right.
but I can't like wink with my left eye, so I just feel like I always like, you know, like if I'm trying to look at something, I close this eye.
And so if you want to see really little detail, you kind of have to use your right eye. Yeah, yeah, so it's kind of a little bit fuzzy there. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So if you have somebody who can see pretty well with each eye, and then like you, and then they're using both eyes together, and man, they cannot see, then that would tell you what?
Wait, you said each eye was good, but then
Each
together.
eye is good by itself, but together, it's just ain't working.
Focusing, combination.
Yeah, very good. So there's something about the eyes working together, which is probably an ocular motor problem, right?
Remember that, what she just said.
So this
Ocular
can
motor
be,
problem.
this can be a really, doing an acuity, distance acuity thing or test, you can really learn a lot. You can learn a lot functionally. Like sometimes people, they're like, they can't move their eye across the line. Like they'll say, oh, well, I can see the B, D, C, L, the first part, but then they can't see on the right half. So you might think, maybe they've got a right field cut. You know, if you haven't gotten a good diagnosis. If they can't see the beginning of the chart, maybe there's something going on in their left visual field. If they can see, you know, pretty good, like maybe they're like 20/20, but they keep skipping lines or skipping letters, you might think, well, maybe their visual search and scan is not working very well, which could be an ocular motor thing. If your eyes aren't moving, your eyes, or if your brain and your eye muscles aren't moving your eyes across the lines.
Is there an amount of error that they have to still be considered, like, saying F instead of P?
Yeah, the low vision optometrist that you know helped train me some in Athens. When he does this, he'll write
You can write a minus.
he'll write 20/16 minus 1. So you know they missed 1, but I mean that's not a big deal.
And you can use that with children. They have something easier that a child can relate to and tell you which way something's pointing. Pictures or E's.
Or yeah, the tumbling E's
Yes.
to tell which direction. Okay, so near vision. Who wants to get tested?
I'll do it.
All right, let's go.
Come on up.
Come on.
Oh,
Come on,
wait.
we're going to watch all these demos.
Go.
So have a seat. There's a lot of there's several different ways to test acuity. This is a Snellen chart. This is very common, and like Irma said, there's other kinds of charts. This is a Mary Warren near vision testing card.
Oh, really?
And so what I just tell folks is, now they have to have their appropriate glasses on. You're so young, you don't have readers yet. That's right. That's right. So I want you to hold this card with both hands, and I'm going to hold the bead right up to your eye, okay, so that we get the right distance away. So you've got two sides, really big.
So this is testing.
Near vision, near acuity. Okay, so we need to get that right about there. And what's the smallest line of print that you can read?
You cannot leave without the children.
And I have to put on my glasses. Is that down at the bottom? Oh my gosh. That's like so small. Okay.
I want to try.
You want to pass that one around?
Yeah, we can pass this one around. You did great.
Thanks, you're welcome.
I mean, really, I can't see this. I can hardly see this with my glasses. So you guys, when you're passing this around, try to hold it by the edge so that where the text is doesn't get, you know, kind of grimy. Thank you.
And Tracy, that Mary Warren chart, I hadn't heard of it. Does it come from where's that Clearinghouse Burnell that has them all? Can you get it from there? Or?
I don't know. We got her by BABA. Mary Warren has a test kit
Oh, okay.
for
Need to write that down.
visual impairment. It's called the Bivaba, and it's got all kinds of goodies in it, and that
Okay.
came in there.
All right.
Yeah. So this can give you an idea of how well somebody's seeing. So if they're like, oh my gosh, I cannot do my financial management, I keep making mistakes in my checking book. Well, you know, maybe it's cognitive, but maybe it's that they're just not getting the right, you know, accurate visual information. So, and this is, you see, that's pretty quick. Okay?
She didn't see me come around in personal vision. What did you say it was called?
Bivaba?
Yeah.
Oh, Bivaba? It's B-I-V-A.
Irma, our case study has a whole write-up on it.
Great, because we want to see that, we need to get that. Okay,
Oh, yeah, you guys should. It's
Yeah.
very cool.
I've got
It's
the
very-
order form and everything.
great.
Yeah. Visibilities is her website, I think. So, let's see. So that was near vision. And you notice that we did not do one eye and then both eyes. You do it with just both eyes together. Okay. And then, did I tell you guys about the different notation systems?
No.
Okay, there's M notation size, and that's what people use kind of in the low vision world, and that sizes of print, and newspaper size print, the text print tends to be about 1 M. And if you look on that near vision chart as it goes around, it's an M notation. There's also something called J notation, and I was just reading about that, and they were saying that it is that it's widely used, but it's really not as accurate as the M's.
And that's for print size.
For print size, yeah. So I'm going to pass around a card for J, and then on the back it has the Snellen equivalent and what size of, you know, printed matter, like telephone book, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so let's see, what do we want to look at? So that's good. Okay, visual fields. Okay, so you want to test the dominant eye, the non-dominant eye, and then the non-dominant eye. And really, I don't know why I put down both. I think I was copying and pasting, because really, I don't do both. I just do each eye singly. Okay, so cross that out. That was my error. Cross that out.
That's pretty cool.
Not both eyes. Okay, so who wants to be my guinea pig?
Let's go.
I'll do it.
Come on up.
All right.
Whoever said that, come on up.
I'm going.
Just so you guys know, I don't use like those black patches because you can't clean them between patients. You know, I mean, and that's like would be pretty gross. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just use like a Kleenex or a paper towel, and then I have some of this tape that you can that's for skin. And if somebody, you know, they can't use an arm or they just can't do everything, then I just tape that onto their eye, okay? But I know you can hold this.
I think I can do it.
You think you can do it? Okay. And so what we're going to do is we're going to test your visual fields, and I tell people that if I look at that clock and I close this eye, and I stare at that clock, then, you know, I can see my hand out here and up here and clear out to there, okay? And this is like a visual cone. Each eyeball has a cone. And that cone is called our visual field. And so what I'm going to be testing is to see if you have lost any of your visual field, right? You know, like you just got out of the hospital last week and you had that stroke, and you've been walking into stuff on your right side, and so that's what we're testing, is to see if you've lost some vision on the right side, and that's why you're bumping into stuff.
When I have it happened over the summer at fieldwork. I was at the hospital working
Okay,
actually.
is this
and
your true self?
yes,
Okay.
yes, this is not stroke self.
Okay.
This is true self. And I've had this migraine come on once before, and I have field cuts. And that's how I can tell it's coming, is that I can't see anything, it's just black over here.
Okay, yeah, so it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, my boss has those. Okay, so the way Mary Warren taught us to do this is to do it with 2 people, okay? But I have to admit, I don't always do what I'm told, and a lot of times I don't have somebody else to do it. So the way the doctors will do it, they'll tell people to cover up one eye, and then you'll see them do this, and they go, how many fingers am I holding up? Yeah, they like fixate on you. Yeah, 3. Okay, and then it's like, how many fingers am I holding up? 4. Yeah, and so they would say, okay, they just did a field test for screening, and it was okay. But Mary Warren said that the results, that research said that that just was not dependable at all. Okay, so because I have to sit really close to you.
Okay.
So cover up your non-dominant. Cover your non-dominant eye.
Okay.
Okay. So here's a pen light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this pen light and I'm going to put it behind your head, and I want you to look at me right between my eyes, and I'm going to pull this around, and when you see the light, I want you to say now. If you see just the pen, don't say anything, but just tell me when you see the light. Okay?
Okay.
Now this pen light is kind of recessed. I don't usually use this one, so I'm going to have to turn it a little bit towards her because otherwise she won't be able to see it. And I always turn off the lights.
You want me to do that?
We're easily amused.
Oh. Like that or the other one?
Yeah.
No, the other one.
Maybe you should
Both
leave
of
it
them.
like this because otherwise it would poke at her.
Yeah.
You won't be able to see her. And actually, let's pretend that let's switch eye dominance on you, okay? Just so that they can see. Okay, so you stare right here, and I tell people I'm going to like sit in your lap. You tell me this. So do you see where she sees it? It's like almost like.
Wait, am I supposed to be struck so far or right the other side?
No, it can be bigger.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can get more right now.
Okay. I can see it. I can see it.
Yeah, and people always can see it.
I can see it. I can see it. See it. See it.
The pen light I usually have, I just switch and it stays on, but this one I have to hold in my hand with it in both positions. Sorry.
I can see it.
Okay, so it's like 6 directions, okay, so, and then diagonally, no, that's 8, right, that's 8, okay. So you do each eye, and then what would happen, here, you do it with me.
Okay.
I'm gonna close one eye, I'm gonna stare right between your eyes. Oh, you have to hold it. And so then, so I'm gonna be stroke sound.
Okay.
See it?
Really? Oh,
She's-
you're stroke cell.
She's stroke.
It's okay, Catherine.
She's a stroker.
Now I see it. And really, people are like that. It's like,
Tunnel vision.
well, so I had a right field cut that involved the peripheral vision plus the central vision. And you get it right up to their irises, you know, it's like, or there are people that it's like, some people, thank you.
Thank you.
So some people, they start to adjust and they will use other visual cues and they might still have the field cut, but but when I do this test, they kind of feel like, oh yeah, I can see it. Some people don't say that they can see it, but you see their eye move. Okay, and their eye is moving in response to motion and light. Right, and that's a low, very old, old visual system that is responsive to movement. Okay.
And Tracy, you do that like, is that just coming around in that one direction, or do you go in all
I go
planes?
all directions,
Okay.
yeah.
So
like
just-
8 directions.
okay.
Yeah. And then will you come help me for just a second?
If somebody with a cognitive impairment doesn't understand, like, tell me
Yeah.
when you see a light, would you look for their eyes?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you would try to see if their eye will move. Yeah. Yeah. And the thing with these tests is, you could do like one of them one day if the person was really low level and got tired easily, and then you could do the other eye the next day. And then have a seat. And then will you help me? So this is how Mary Warren says to do it, and is that Dr.
Nope.
Oh. Let's see. Yeah, you have a seat. Okay. Okay, so close your right. Let's pretend like your left eye should go in the eye. So close that eye. And then, so this is how Mary Warren says to do it. So you would stare at her right between her eyes, and then I would be back here and not giving you any visual input with my arm.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're standing back here, it's hard to tell when the person, where this light was.
Yeah.
And so that's what the second person does is, like if I'm coming from down here, so I might not be able to see it. So you're kind of working with this other person.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the
good
preferred
to
way
see.
to do it, but I have to be honest. Thank you, ladies.
That tactile system really
Okay.
works.
Somebody else,
Come on, please.
What do you need?
somebody else, one other person, pop up here. Okay, so ocular motor.
Hello, I'm starting to lose off. You can mess up such things, but it's just losing it.
Ocular
Motor muscles going.
Well, and you know what, we're older, so we might not have as much peripheral field up at the top, yeah. So, on your slide, for ocular motor, you're gonna test the dominant eye, non-dominant eye, then both eyes. I just tell people, keep your eye on the pencil. You hold the pencil about 20 inches away from the face. You move in an arc. You wanna stay within the lines of the shoulder. So you're not, I'm not gonna test Pamela like way out here. I'm gonna keep it like kind of close. And so close one eye. Good. And then what I want you to do is keep your eye on the pen. Actually, I'm going to turn it on. Yeah, I need the tape for you. So, thank you. So, stay here though. So one eye, then the other eye, then both eyes. And if you're good at eyeballing distance, then you will be able to look at people and a lot of times tell if their eyes aren't, if their eye muscles are off. I mean, some people it's absolutely obvious, they've got a brainstem problem and it's whacked out there. Some of those cranial nerves, you'll be like one eye's over here, one's here. But sometimes you can see those subtle things. So we just did your left eye, we would do her right eye, and then we would do both eyes together. And then we would do convergence. So we would start right about here, and then bring the pen in, and then out, and out. And we would do this about 8 times. And when I first learned to do this from somebody else, they were like, oh, I'll do it once or twice. Because it's hard to do, especially when you get older, because the lens doesn't focus. But Mary Warren said to do it 8 times. And
I
she
like
said,
that.
she said, you know, the reason why you want to do it 8 times is because when somebody's reading, they have to hold that convergence for quite a while to be able to read. So you really kind of want to test their convergence.
Can you do it 8 times in a row, or can you do it 3 times and stop?
No,
and then
8
3
times. She does 8 times in a row. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's a lot more about ocular motor. It is
Yep.
incredibly, awesomely, impossibly complicated.
And the cool thing is when you're in practice, again, remember the context of seeing a kid at after school work at 5:30 in the afternoon. I started to pick up that when we were doing astronaut program, his left eye would just kind of, it wasn't lined up. It wasn't lined up. And it was like, okay, this is after school. This is eye work. You know, and so I just told Mom, there's something happening with his left eye. I don't know, but go see your eye doctor. And sure enough, he's wearing glasses now that, you know, help him so his eyes aren't so fatigued. But you'll see this in little time of day. And maybe if I saw him in the morning for a morning appointment, I wouldn't see that. But he's been at school all day, and then I get him in the afternoon, and just happens to be, yeah.
We had a lot of patients in the hospital who were on pain medications that had the same
Oh,
problem.
yeah. Just about,